What is a supply chain? That's a very good question. And I'm assuming that you want the answer, which is why you clicked on the video. And that's what I'm about to talk about today. There's lots of videos on the internet about what a supply chain is, but they're all very wishy-washy, for dummies or for children. Very animated videos they tend to be. Not somebody just talking directly to a camera saying what a supply chain is. So I thought I'd do that today. It's going to try and be minimal edits and cuts here, unless I make a mistake. Just try and explain what they actually are. My name's Alfie. I've been in the supply chain field for half a decade, which may not seem like a crazy amount of time. Some of you who are watching this video might have way more experience than me, but trust me, it's enough to know what the downfalls are and what works, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today once I've explained what a supply chain is. So, getting into it, basically put, a supply chain is all the different steps that happen within a business or within a sector to supply customers. Customers being at the very end and the raw material supplier being at the very start of a chain. And there's loads of different steps, and each one is referred to as a link in the chain. And you have enough links and you've got a chain. And that's a supply chain, really. Usually split into three sections. So you would have procurement, logistics, and inventory management. Now, bigger companies will have departments for each of these three, and some people even classify more than three, but let's just keep it simple for now and say that there's three. So, let's start with procurement. Procurement, basically put, is buying stuff. Procurement and purchasing are slightly different in their definition. If somebody says they're in procurement, don't call them a purchaser because they'll get very upset. Purchasing is literally like going on Amazon and buying stuff that you're told to buy. Procurement is a little bit more than that. You're buying stuff, but you're also picking vendors based on certain criteria. You might be checking them out. You might be doing vendor questionnaires, things like that, making sure that they're compliant. There's a little bit more in depth to it, but that's essentially procurement, is the acquiring goods basically for your business. Inventory management. So inventory management is basically controlling the inventory once it's been acquired by the procurement. So it starts at goods in, so it would be your goods in process. It would be what labels are you putting on it, what stock system are you using, or warehouse management system are you using, and then how do you store that in the warehouse. Do you have shelves? Do you have, well, everybody has shelves, but do you have shelves that just come up to head height, or do you have shelves that go all the way up to the ceiling you need a forklift for? It's labelling and choosing which stock goes where. Do you move stock? Do you group stock in customers, or do you group stock in value, or do you group stock in what sort of storage container it needs to go in, or size? All of that stuff is determined by a warehouse team, typically determined by a warehouse team. That's all inventory management. Inventory management will also go into the operations that would sit in the background. So what you would see happening has to be determined by somebody, and that's usually decided with data. So you'd look at stock turnover, values and reports. So usually have an inventory manager who might actually be in charge of the warehouse manager, and the inventory manager will make the decisions on how the warehouse might operate. Moving on, there'll be logistics, and this is how it gets out the door, and after how it gets to the customer. Logistics would decide or choose, maybe not the best word, organise product going out of the door. So that would be, is it going to be delivered by an actual employee of the company, or is it going to be picked up by a courier like DPD, DHL, FedEx, the likes? And then if it's a internal, so let's say your business is based in the UK, and you're just delivering to another UK address, it's pretty easy. You just book a shipment, slap a label on the box, and off it goes. If you're doing international shipments, you've got customs to deal with, so that gets a bit more tricky, and it is recommended that you do some training before trying to do your first shipment, because it will most likely get stuck in customs, and it's not fun. Those are the three main elements to supply chains. Any operations that are done within a supply chain can be put in those three categories. Some people like to categorize more for supply chain, especially for bigger companies. It does make a little bit more sense sometimes. Depends on the type of company that you've got. But then there's also some new sort of categories coming around for companies that might not be product based but still have a supply chain. So you might not have inventory management because all of your product is software, but actually you're getting bits of software from different companies, putting it all together, slapping your own stuff on, and then sending it to your customer digitally. So you don't have logistics and you don't have inventory management, but you still have procurement. So you might have a one link supply chain that you're getting all of loads of different people to supply to you, and then you're supplying to loads of different customers. So yeah, there's loads of different ways that supply chains can operate, and new ways, and there'll be new ways. As soon as I posted this video, there'll be a new supply chain method or a new company that does it slightly differently to how I've described, but most companies would fit into the three category system of procurement, inventory management, and logistics. Some additional categories that other people might throw into the mix to classify their supply chains. You might have operations. Sometimes these can be entire departments that just run operations, and these are going to be the sort of people that kind of oversee logistics and inventory management, not so much procurement, but specifically these people will be looking at data. So you would want to see your stock turnover, you would want to maybe see your most profitable products, you may want to look into your returns and see how much money that's costing you, and are you recuperating that in profits, or how many returns are you getting? There's loads of different things and elements in there. I'm sure you kind of get the gist from that. Another category that's a little bit more rare to bundle into supply chain, but some people would be finance. Finance is quite a broad category and is definitely a department in itself in every company, because we all run businesses for money, we don't do it for fun. But finance may be categorised purely because supply chain runs quite a hefty part of a business, especially a products business. If you were selling toothbrushes, all of your finance is linked to an element of the supply chain. So you're spending money to gain product, or to have staff to then buy the product. You've then got the inventory management to manage the product and the money to pay those people. Then you've got money on shipping and paying those people. And then when you receive money from your customer, that needs to be managed by the finance team also. And then there's also the additional, this is where it gets a bit more vague, is also the additional maybe like softwares and stuff that your company might have. And just general stuff. If you have an office block, you're obviously going to be buying stuff like toilet paper. That's not really a supply chain thing. Some companies might have a direct and indirect buying and actually categorize it. So direct buying would be buying stuff that is purely to be sold, so it's for your product. So if, again, we'll go back to the toothbrush analogy, direct buying would be stuff like whatever the material is used for the bristles on toothbrush, and maybe the toothbrush handles are separate, I don't know. Or maybe the boxes that you then package your toothbrush into. Indirect buying would be stuff like the toilet paper and the paper for the printer and the fruit for the fruit basket that you keep in your reception. Stuff that's not required for the business and you don't make any money off. Or maybe it is required for the business, but you don't make any money back from it. That's sort of indirect buying. And some companies will have a buyer to do indirect buying, sort of the larger companies, and then the smaller companies usually just either give it to the buyers that they've already got, or just chuck it to a receptionist or something. I'm not saying that's right, but that's what they do. So you could bundle finance into the supply chain as well. It's less common, but some people do it. It's important to highlight that. Another category that you could chuck into supply chain, again, it's a bit like finance where it is kind of its own section, could be the manufacturing. So let's say you're a subcontract manufacturer. You buy in product, you make it for a customer and sell it to them. Pretty standard stuff. Could be anything. Could be a torch. Let's say you make a torch. You buy in batteries, you buy in the metal shell, you buy in the LED PCB bit, and you assemble it all in-house, put it in a nice little package, send it to your customers. You could include the manufacturing team as part of the supply chain. This is where, and the same again with the finance team, this is where you start to bundle everybody into the supply chain, and at this point you just say the entire business is supply chain, which in a way it is. I feel like there's a limit. I like the three categories that I mentioned previously, but it's worth chucking it in here. Yeah, some people might categorize their manufacturing team as part of the supply chain, which is absolutely fine. Do what you want. It's your business, not mine. But yeah, it's worth noting that some people do categorize that. And there are actually companies that will do all the operational work for you. They're called fourth-party logistics companies. They're not, a massive industry, but they are quite good. And it could be you have a company where you just have the idea, or you sell the product, and they actually buy the stock, manufacture for you, and ship it to your customer. It's a little bit like drop shipping. Similar sort of idea, but you actually own the product. Like you might have a patent for it. They would definitely be, in that scenario, manufacturing is definitely part of the supply chain because they're a supplier of yours. And actually it's quite, if you were that company where you just owned a product and you sold it online and then you paid another company to get all the materials, make it, and send it to your customer, you actually have a very simple supply chain. You're gonna have the lowest amount of profit, presumably, because you're not doing it yourself, but it's quite an effective way of running a supply chain where you don't actually have to see the product or deal with it at all. A step down from that would be a third-party logistics company. Previous one was a fourth. This is a third. So a third-party logistics company is everything but the manufacturing. So you might have a supplier in Taiwan that makes your torches for you. Let's use a different analogy. It's a company in Taiwan that makes... Look around my room. There's a supplier in Taiwan that makes your pen for you. Okay, you've got a patented pen that can write upside down. I don't know. and you've got a manufacturer in Taiwan that makes it for you, you would have it, instead of sent to you, you would get it sent to your third-party logistics company. Your third-party logistics company will store it for you. And then when you get an order, they receive the order. They pack it up for you exactly how you want it to be packaged up, maybe with a thank you note, with a little bit of eco-friendly packaging, custom box, maybe a sticker or two. Package that all up for you and ship it to your customer. Again, same sort of principle where you would never see that product, and it's quite an efficient way of running your business. The fourth-party logistics companies do charge quite a premium for that. Third-party logistics company plus manufacturer works out to be a little bit cheaper most of the time, just because of that convenience that's lost a little bit. It depends how risky you want your supply chain to be, how well you think you can manage your supply chain. You're going to have to be the bridge between your manufacturer and your third-party logistics company to make sure that the product goes to the customer every single time on time. There is an element of risk with fourth-party and third-party logistics companies because you're not doing it yourself. You're relying on other people fulfilling the customer orders for you. Third-party logistics company plus manufacturer tends to be a little bit less risky, and we can go into how to analyse supply chain risk in another video. This is trying to just explain supply chains. But that tends to be a little bit less risky because a third-party logistics company, you can send additional stock, also known as safety stock or buffer stock, to your third-party logistics company, and if for whatever reason your manufacturer couldn't supply the order quick enough, your third-party logistics company has additional stock that they can send to your customers whilst the manufacturer catches up. If your manufacturer is also your third-party logistics company, i.e. a fourth-party logistics company, you don't have that luxury. They're most likely going to make to order, so they might not hold a buffer stock unless you specifically ask for that. So just bear that in mind. If you're new to supply chains or new to a specific business, just bear that in mind with your supply chain. And in a subsequent video, I'll go over supply chain risk and how to mitigate that so you don't get caught out. So there we have it. That is what a supply chain is in my personal experience and in most people's experience. And that also covers a couple of categories that are a little bit more rare, but still worth noting. You should have a good idea of how to structure your business or how your future business will be structured supply chain wise. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to go into each category in a bit more detail on how to actually do it, how to run the supply chain so that you can actually fulfill product to your customer. It's all well and good me saying this is what a supply chain is, but there's hundreds of videos on YouTube about what a supply chain is, and there's barely any on how to actually run it and the problems that you may face and how to fix those problems. I'm hopefully going to be the solution to those problems for you, and we can work together on how to fix those problems in the supply chain and get you the most efficient running business possible with the least amount of risk and the most amount of profit. And I can't wait to hear the results from these videos from people actually trying it completely for free. I'm going to upload my entire brain onto YouTube videos for supply chain, and you can just watch them completely for free and hopefully improve your supply chains. So the next couple of videos we'll be going deeper into those categories that I mentioned, and you can follow along. Thank you very much for watching. I hope I helped. I hope I explained what a supply chain is to those of you who didn't know what it was when you clicked on the video, and I hope I made the people who already knew think a little bit and go, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that people categorized finance into supply chain. That's weird. Why would they do that? I don't know. We can go into it in a much more detail in a future video. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Alfie. See you later.